She walked through the hangar every morning with her mop in one hand and silence in the other. Her name was Alana, quiet, polite, and always overlooked. People barely noticed her as she swept the same floors where the brightest engineers and pilots worked on the world's most advanced fighter jet, the XR-91 Falcon. To them, she was just the janitor, a nobody. Some even laughed behind her back, mocking the way she mumbled to herself or stared a little too long at the aircraft panels. No one ever thought to ask why. Alina didn't argue or fight back. She just kept her head down and did her job. But what they didn't know was that Alina had a past one filled with secrets. Before this quiet life, she had studied aerospace engineering in another country, but tragedy had pulled her away from it all. Now she found peace in routine, in wiping away the dust from the machines she once dreamed of building. One day, something changed. During a regular sweep through the hangar, she overheard a conversation between two engineers. There was a problem with the jet's core system, a glitch no one could solve. The project was on the brink of collapse. Billions of dollars and national security were at risk. While the team panicked, Alina stood in the shadows, heart pounding. Recognizing the issue instantly, she had seen this design flaw before, and she knew exactly how to fix it. But who would listen to a janitor? She paced back and forth that night, torn between speaking up or staying silent. Her mind replayed the calculations, the solution forming perfectly in her head. If she stayed quiet, the jet might crash in testing. If she spoke, she'd likely be laughed out of the building, or worse, fired. Still, something inside her had shifted. This wasn't just about pride anymore. It was about saving lives. So the next morning, while the team gathered around the jet, arguing over code and blueprints, Alina took a deep breath and stepped forward. What happened next left the entire base in silence. The room fell silent as Alina's voice broke through the noise. "It's not the software," she said softly, her accent still heavy from a life once lived elsewhere. A few engineers turned, confused. One of them blinked, frowning. "Excuse me?" he asked, almost annoyed. "This area's restricted, ma'am," but she didn't back away. Instead, she walked closer to the digital screen they had all been staring at for hours. Her eyes scanned the diagram like she'd done it 1,000 times. The pressure valve and the secondary intake kits misaligned, causing an unstable surge. "Your code's not wrong. Your hardware is." There was laughter, brief, uncomfortable. "And how would you know that?" someone asked, clearly amused. Another engineer leaned in, whispering something sarcastic to a colleague. But the lead designer, a man named Grant, narrowed his eyes. He saw something different in Alina. Not just confidence, but precision. "You've seen this model before?" he asked carefully. Alina hesitated, then nodded. "Not this exact jet, but one based on similar schematics. Years ago, I worked on a prototype that never made it to production." More whispers, more confusion. Grant didn't laugh. He just looked at her like she was a puzzle he hadn't solved. "Who are you?" That question lingered in the air. No one knew much about her. They only knew she showed up early, stayed late, and never complained. They never thought twice about the woman who wiped down control panels or emptied trash bins near million-dollar aircraft. But now, standing among the most advanced aviation team in the world, Alina looked completely at home. She began to explain further, calmly pointing out areas they hadn't even considered. The flaw was re-land dangerous. But just as Grant started to lean in, asking for more, a security alarm went off, and suddenly, everything changed. The shrill sound of the alarm echoed through the hangar, drowning out Alina's words. Red lights flashed across the ceiling as the massive steel doors began to lock down automatically. People scrambled. Engineers dropped their tools, shouting over each other, trying to understand what was happening. Grant reached for his radio, demanding answers. Security breach. Where? But the only reply was static. Alina didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the jet on one small panel near the rear engine bay. Something didn't feel right. Not just about the jet's design, but about the entire situation. This wasn't a drill. She could feel it. Moments later, 2 uniformed guards stormed into the hangar. Their expressions were tense. Everyone step away from the aircraft. One of them ordered, "We have an internal threat alert. No one leaves until clearance is given." The engineers exchanged nervous glances. Internal? Someone whispered, "What does that mean?" Grant was already on edge, but he stepped forward. "We need answers. We've got critical testing scheduled today." The guard didn't flinch. "That test is suspended until further notice." Alina backed up slowly, but her mind was racing. Her warning about the flawlet had barely been heard. And now, just as she was being taken seriously, something or someone was trying to shut everything down. Was it a coincidence? Or had someone noticed her digging too deep? She thought back to the old prototype she had worked on years ago. There had been a similar error. And there had been pressure to stay quiet about it. Too much pressure. Her hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from recognition. There was something much bigger at play here, and Alina might be the only one. Who could see it coming? But now someone wanted her silenced. The hangar grew colder. Not because of the air, but because of the silence that settled after the guard's announcement. Everyone kept their distance from Alina now, unsure what to think. Was she part of the threat? Or had she just gotten too close to something she shouldn't have? The only person who kept watching her was Grantan. Even he seemed unsure which side she was on. Alina didn't speak. She couldn't. Not here, not now. Every movement was being watched, and every word she said might be used against her. But her mind was working faster than ever. She had spent years trying to stay out of sight, pretending she was just a janitor. But that life had just been stripped away in a matter of seconds. She looked at the XR-91 Falcon one more time. The jet wasn't just advanced, it was dangerous if misused. And if her calculations were right, someone had already tampered with it. The flaw she'd spotted earlier wasn't an accident. It was placed there, on purpose. And if this jet ever left the ground in that condition, it wouldn't just crash. It could become a weapon against the very people who built it. She had to act. But before she could take a step, 2 security officers approached her. "You need to come with us," one of them said. No explanation. No discussion. Grant took a step forward. "She was helping us." "You can't just, she's not cleared," the guard snapped. "Orders from higher up." Alina's heart pounded as they led her away. She didn't resist. She just glanced at Grant, her eyes locking with his for a brief second. "Don't let them launch it," she whispered. Then she disappeared behind the steel doors. Back in the hangar, a countdown had begun. One that no one fully understood, except her. The steel doors shut with a heavy thud, and Alina was gone. The team stood frozen, unsure whether to return to work or demand answers. But Grant couldn't shake her last words. "Don't let them launch it." Something about her voice, so certain, so urgent, kept ringing in his ears. He turned back to the jet, suddenly seeing it not as a marvel, but as a threat. Meanwhile, deep inside the security wing, Alina sat alone in a windowless room. No one spoke to her. No one explained anything. Her ID badge had been taken, her phone disabled. All she could do was wait and think. Whoever triggered the alarm didn't just want her silenced. They needed her out of the way. Which meant she was right. Someone high up wanted the XR-91 Falcon to launch with that flaw intact. But why? Back in the hangar, one of the younger engineers, Maya, tapped Grant on the shoulder. "Sir, something's wrong. The launch sequence sits not responding to manual override." Grant rushed to the control terminal. The interface was locked, countdown still running. His fingers flew over the keyboard, trying to abort. Nothing. "Who authorized this?" he shouted. No one answered then. A screen flashed red. "External. Command activated. Remote access enabled." Grant's stomach dropped. Someone outside the base had taken control of the jet, and that's when the second shock hit. The Falcon's internal comms suddenly came to life with a voice no one expected Alana's. Her voice, steady and low, crackled through the speaker. "They're not just testing the jet," she said. "They're using it, and you're running out of time." Everyone looked around in stunned silence. How was she back on the system? How did she even gain access? But Grant wasn't asking those questions anymore. He was asking himself one thing. What exactly have we built? And worse, who is trying to fly it? Panic spread through the hangar like a wave. Engineers scrambled between consoles, trying every known command to regain control. But the jet systems remained locked. The XR-91 Falcon was now completely in the hands of someone else. Someone with knowledge deep enough to override the base's highest security protocols. And Alina, somehow, was speaking through the aircraft's internal comms as if she'd never left. "Listen to me." Her voice continued, calm but urgent. "The jet is programmed to fly an unauthorized route. If it takes off, it won't be coming back. It's carrying classified tech that wasn't meant to leave U.S. airspace." Grant stepped forward, speaking into the nearest mic. "Where are you? How are you doing this?" A pause. Then Alina replied, "I used to help build this system years ago, before it was shut due."